Where do you think you're going at this hour, mother-in-law? My heart leaped when he stopped me. I was just heading to the pharmacy. I clutched the drawing in my hand. I had actually intended to take it to the police, but being confronted at such an unexpected moment left me flustered and unable to come up with a convincing excuse. Gathering my courage, I told my son-in-law about the message I'd received from my daughter. Is this true? The message from my daughter stated that her husband had taken out a large life insurance policy on her and was planning to get rid of her. Oh, that, Michael said dismissively, then suddenly changed his expression and began speaking. The only reason I married your daughter was because I heard she'd received a substantial settlement when she divorced her previous husband. Yet she refuses to share a penny of it. He brazenly continued, smirking as if something was terribly amusing. So I had to change my approach. His expression was eerie and frightening. You received a large insurance payout when your father-in-law passed away, didn't you? Incredibly, Michael had his eyes on the insurance money my late husband had left me. I figured I should get a payout just like you did. Michael had plotted to kill my daughter, making it look like an accident, so he could collect both her inheritance and her life insurance. How could you think of something so horrible? At that moment, Michael's hand shot out and grabbed my arm. With tremendous force, he tried to snatch the letter from my hand. I resisted desperately. This was crucial evidence exposing this man's evil deeds, left behind by my daughter. My son-in-law pushed me, and I fell backward. Just as I thought all was lost, the front door opened. That was the beginning of Michael's downfall. My name is Mary. I'm a 62-year-old company employee. My husband died in an accident last year, and my 31-year-old daughter is already married, so I now live alone in the house my husband left behind. It would be a lie to say I'm not lonely, but I still work full-time and have a lovely granddaughter, so my days are reasonably fulfilling. When my husband died, I received a substantial insurance payout. Unknown to us, he had taken out a policy for the family's benefit. I saved this precious money he left behind for my granddaughter Emma's future and for my own retirement. My daughter Kimberly remarried, bringing along Emma, who was 3 at the time, when she married her current husband 2 years ago. Emma was born to my daughter and her previous husband. Kimberly now lives with 5-year-old Emma and her husband Michael about a 30-minute drive from my house. Emma is Michael's stepdaughter, but they seem to be living together without any particular problems. My granddaughter is so precious to me that I wouldn't mind if she poked me in the eye. After Kimberly married Michael, she quit her job to become a full-time homemaker, but since I'm still in good health, I've tried to help by looking after Emma when asked, picking her up from kindergarten, and so on. However, at some point, Michael began persistently suggesting that we live together. Kimberly wants to start working again. Also, Emma adores her grandmother, so couldn't we all live together soon, and you could help out when needed? That's how Michael would bring up living together every time we met. Of course, I also had feelings of wanting to live with my daughter and granddaughter. But I wanted to keep working as long as I could, and sometimes invite friends over. If Kimberly went back to work full-time, I would only be able to work part-time to accommodate Emma's kindergarten pickup schedule, and I wouldn't be able to invite friends over as freely as I do now if I were living in my daughter's house. Moreover, Emma is no longer at an age where she needs my constant attention, and Kimberly, as a stay-at-home mom, isn't so overwhelmed that she can't manage her only child. So whenever Michael brought up living together, I would gently decline, saying, I don't want to be a burden on you too. It wasn't a lie that I didn't want to burden the young couple who had only been married for 3 years. But to be honest, I simply couldn't bring myself to like Michael. I've always been somewhat frugal, spending money only on necessities while living modestly. Michael was the opposite, flashy and extravagant, and our values clashed so fundamentally that I couldn't imagine us living together harmoniously. Yet Michael persistently kept asking about living together. My daughter Kimberly tends to be plain and understated. She has a modest personality and doesn't waste money, but apparently, she was attracted to Michael, who was the complete opposite of her ex-husband, and that's why she married him. On my days off, Kimberly often visits with Emma. Emma always brings her favorite picture book, and I read it to her. It's a joyful time we share. Even though Emma has heard the stories many times, she still reacts with genuine surprise and laughter. For me, these moments watching my granddaughter's various expressions are delightful. Recently, Emma has been particularly fond of fairy tales. She often begs me to read them, and when I do so with plenty of expression, she's absolutely thrilled. That day too, Kimberly and Emma had come to visit, and I was reading a picture book as usual. Unlike the cheerful Emma, Kimberly had seemed low on energy lately. Looking closely, her cheeks appeared gaunt, and she seemed to have lost weight. Furthermore, the clothes she wore were faded and covered in pills. Though I believe in modest living, her appearance was excessively shabby. Her hair had grown out too, and while it was pulled back, it was clear she hadn't been to a salon in quite some time. "Are you eating properly? You seem to have lost weight," I said, but my daughter just smiled vaguely and said, "I'm fine." "That outfit. Even if you're being frugal, don't you think it's time to throw it away? You should buy something new." I chose my words carefully. Kimberly had received a settlement when she divorced her previous husband, so even as a homemaker, she should have had some money to spend freely. I felt that wearing such worn-out clothes might affect Emma, even if Kimberly herself didn't mind. For instance, if she went to pick up Emma from kindergarten dressed like that, wouldn't Emma feel embarrassed? I offered to buy her new clothes if she didn't have the money, but she refused that too. "It's not torn yet, so I can wear it a bit longer," Kimberly said resignedly. I felt something was off, and I recalled seeing Michael recently. Come to think of it, he had been dressed in a brand new designer suit. If Kimberly had chosen to wear old clothes of her own accord, that would be one thing, but I felt uneasy about Michael indulging in luxury while his wife looked like this. Michael was wearing a brand new designer suit. "You should at least buy yourself some casual clothes. Michael needs them for work. He has to look presentable. I'm just a housewife, so I don't need new clothes." I tried asking about other aspects of their life with Michael, but Kimberly, seeming not to want to worry me, just dodged my questions and wouldn't answer anything. One day at work, I received an unusual call from Michael. When I answered, he said in a desperate voice, "Kimberly got into a traffic accident on her way to pick up Emma." I hurriedly took leave from work and headed to the hospital. Kimberly was unconscious and in critical condition. "Kimberly, what happened?" Entering the hospital room, I found Emma crying, not understanding what was happening, alongside a pale-faced Michael. I picked Emma up and comforted her while asking Michael about the situation. Apparently, Kimberly had been the victim of a hit-and-run while on her way to pick up Emma from kindergarten. The doctor said that while they had managed to save her life, her condition remained critical. "Kimberly, how did this happen? Who could do something so terrible as a hit-and-run?" I couldn't stop my tears as I looked at my daughter lying there with an oxygen mask. Seeing this, Emma wiped my tears with her own towel. "Thank you, Emma." Emma, who had stopped crying without my noticing, responded with a phrase she had just learned, "You're welcome." If Kimberly couldn't see this child grow up, how heartbreaking it would be for her as a mother. With a prayer-like feeling, I gazed at Kimberly's closed eyes. So, was the culprit caught? According to the police, they haven't caught the perpetrator yet. However, there was an eyewitness who said the driver was a young woman, so it doesn't seem to be one of those elderly driver accidents we hear about so often. Michael's voice trailed off, and then he collapsed at my feet. Michael, are you all right? Startled, I gently set Emma down and knelt in front of Michael. A nearby nurse immediately called a doctor, so Michael received treatment and was allowed to rest in a bed. I think it's the emotional strain from his wife's accident. He should be fine with some rest, the doctor told me, which honestly surprised me. I was astonished to learn that Michael loved Kimberly enough to collapse from the emotional strain of seeing her injured. It was that unexpected to me. At the same time, I did reevaluate my opinion of Michael. I had always suspected, somewhere in my heart, that Michael was to blame for Kimberly's shabby appearance and lack of energy. But seeing him like this, as my daughter's partner, made me reconsider my negative impression of him and my doubts about his love for Kimberly. I decided that once Kimberly regained consciousness and recovered, I would consider living together as Michael had suggested. After Michael woke up, we took Emma and returned to his house together. When he apologetically said, "I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble today," I replied, "You've had a tough day too, Michael. Leave everything to me and get some rest," and let him rest in the bedroom while I took care of Emma. She was still in her kindergarten uniform, so I had her change clothes and gave her dinner. After dinner, when things had settled down, Emma took a drawing of the witch from Snow White from her handmade tote bag that she always takes to kindergarten and gave it to me. "You're giving this to me?" "Yes. It's from Mama. Mama said to give it to Grandma, but to keep it a secret from Papa." Emma also took out drawings of Snow White and the dwarfs from her bag to show me. "Did Mama draw all of these for you?" Emma nodded emphatically after arranging the pictures. Recently, among fairy tales, Emma has been particularly fond of Snow White, and she often begs me to read the picture book. I wondered if Kimberly had drawn these Snow White characters for Emma because she liked them so much. But as I looked at them, something didn't quite add up. "Emma, you like Snow White and the dwarfs, but you don't like the witch, right? I wonder why Mama drew the witch too." When I said I didn't want the witch, she told me to give it to Grandma, Emma replied. I found it strange that Kimberly would deliberately draw a character her daughter disliked. She never usually does things Emma doesn't like, much less tell her to give it to me. Looking at the witch drawing in my hand, I could see some writing showing through. There seemed to be something written on the back of the paper. I quickly turned it over and found it was a letter from Kimberly to me. Written in tiny letters covering the page, its contents were unbelievable. After reading the letter, I headed to the bedroom where Michael was sleeping to verify if what was written was true. Entering the room quietly, I confirmed he was sound asleep, then rolled up his pajama sleeve. Looking closely, I could see a cut mark on his arm. This was the evidence. My suspicions about Michael turned into certainty. The letter stated that a month ago, when Kimberly went out alone, she was attacked by a stranger. She was assaulted from behind by someone with a knife, and when she desperately fought back, the attacker's arm was injured. When the attacker lunged at her again, voices of people were heard, so the assailant fled, and Kimberly escaped unharmed. She should have gone to the police immediately, but the time to pick up Emma from kindergarten was approaching, so she planned to report it after returning home. When she returned home with Emma, Michael was there, despite it being only early evening. When asked, he said he had come home because his outside work had brought him to the neighborhood. Although Michael did sometimes go out for work, he had never stopped by home during those times before. However, at this time, Kimberly was still shaken from the terror of being attacked and had been tense the whole way home, worried about being attacked again, so rather than questioning Michael's behavior, she was genuinely relieved that he was home. Naturally, she immediately reported the attack to Michael, but he stopped her from going to the police, saying, "Since nothing happened, it's better not to make a big deal of it." Kimberly wasn't convinced, but when he strongly insisted, "What if you're targeted again after causing a commotion?" she ultimately didn't report it. Above all, she couldn't bear the thought of her daughter being at risk. Being told it was better not to make a fuss, Kimberly felt the same way. For a while, everything was normal, but one day, Kimberly noticed a cut on her husband's arm after he got out of the bath. It was in the same place as the wound the attacker had received that day. Although it seemed impossible, doubt began to grow in Kimberly's mind. To dispel these doubts, Kimberly began investigating Michael. After checking his smartphone, computer, and social media, it seemed certain that Michael was having an affair. From there, she hired a professional investigator to get conclusive evidence. The investigation revealed that Michael's mistress was a woman from his company. Michael had been buying her brand-name goods, taking her to expensive restaurants, and even on trips. Gradually, his own earnings became insufficient, and to give more to his mistress, he repeatedly took out loans, with the repayment amount steadily increasing. Around the time she discovered this, Kimberly suddenly remembered that a few months earlier, at Michael's suggestion, they had taken out large life insurance policies on each other. Kimberly, as a housewife, had said she didn't need such a large policy, but Michael had persuasive arguments and pushed her into it. Sensing that her life might be in danger, Kimberly entrusted the letter to Emma in case something happened to her. At the end of the letter was written, "If anything happens to me, please take care of Emma." With trembling hands, I put the letter away and, after making sure Emma was asleep, tried to slip out quietly. I wanted to take the letter to the police as soon as possible. Just as I was about to leave through the front door, I was startled by a voice from behind. "Where do you think you're going at this hour, mother-in-law?" I turned to find Michael standing there with a suspicious look. "Just to the pharmacy." "Leaving Emma behind? What do you need to buy at this hour?" I couldn't let him know I was going to the police. But I was so upset that I couldn't smooth over the situation effectively. Well, what was I going to buy again? Did Kimberly tell you something? Being directly confronted, I swallowed hard. I looked back into Michael's eyes but couldn't read what he was thinking. There was still a faint hope in me that it was all untrue. That's why I desperately wanted to know the truth. Having made up my mind, I told Michael that I had received a letter from Kimberly. "Is what's written here true?" "Oh, that," Michael then admitted to the letter's contents without any remorse, in a defiant attitude. "The reason I married your daughter was because I heard she had received a large settlement when she divorced her previous husband." He then revealed his true nature, saying, "She's just a stingy woman with nothing going for her except money, claiming it's all for Emma's future and refusing to spend a penny. But I was lucky enough to find the bank book and card she was hiding. However, the balance was less than I expected. That's not enough." Kimberly had deposited the settlement money from her ex-husband in a separate account under Emma's name, in addition to her own account. She had asked me to keep the bank book and card for that account in case something happened. Michael had probably only found Kimberly's personal account and didn't know about Emma's account. "Also, I heard that you received a large insurance payout from your late father-in-law. So I thought we could live together, and I could borrow from you to pay off my debts. But since you never agreed to live together no matter how many times I suggested it, I had no choice but to consider another method. Incredibly, he was even after the insurance money my late husband had left me. I figured I could get an insurance payout just like you did. Horrifyingly, Michael had plotted to kill Kimberly, making it look like an accident, so he could collect both her inheritance and life insurance. How could you think of something so terrible? With my back to the front door, I reached for the knob and unlocked it. The moment the door opened slightly, Michael grabbed my arm. I desperately resisted as he tried to snatch the letter with tremendous force. That hurts. I was pulled hard by Michael and fell on my backside. Michael tried to pick up the letter that had fallen from my hand due to the impact. Give it back. Just as I thought all was lost, the door opened from outside, and the police burst in. Are you all right? Are you hurt? One officer rushed to me, offering a hand to help me up. As I stood there stunned, not understanding the situation, the other two officers grabbed Michael from both sides. Bella Wilson has confessed to the hit and run. She's told us all about your plan. Apparently, a dashboard camera from another car at the scene had clearly captured the moment when Bella, Michael's mistress, ran over Kimberly. Michael was taken into police custody on suspicion of being an accessory to attempted murder. Sandwiched between two officers, he was put into a patrol car while spewing abuse like, I was so close to pulling it off. You had to interfere. A few days later, the hospital called to say that Kimberly had regained consciousness. I was at work, so I took early leave, picked up Emma from kindergarten, and rushed to the hospital. I'm so glad you've regained consciousness. Mom, I'm sorry for worrying you so much. Emma was also delighted to see her mother awake after so long. After regaining consciousness, Kimberly had to undergo another police interview, and Michael was rearrested as a suspect in the assault incident. After being discharged, Kimberly returned to my house with Emma. I ended up living with my daughter and granddaughter, the three of us together. Even though Michael, who had been a father figure for a little over 2 years, was gone, Emma didn't seem particularly bothered. Instead, she said, I get to see Grandma every day now, happy to be living with me. It seems Michael was often away from home due to his affairs. Kimberly sent divorce papers to Michael in detention through her lawyer, and the divorce was successfully finalized. The investigation revealed that Michael had multiple mistresses, and Kimberly was able to receive compensation from all of them. The money I had in my account was used for the affair investigation, and Michael took the rest. I'm glad Emma's money wasn't touched since Michael didn't know about the other account. Emma helped Mama so much by giving the witch drawing to Grandma. You were such a good girl. Thank you. Emma looked happy being praised by her beloved mother. Kimberly quietly whispered while drawing Snow White, the evil witch is gone now. Emma happily accepted the drawing. Even after her physical wounds healed, Kimberly needed counseling for a while. It's understandable, having her life threatened twice. But even amid all this, she said she was truly grateful that her beloved Emma had been spared any harm. As a mother myself, I completely understand that feeling. From now on, Kimberly and I will protect Emma with all our might while finding happiness for ourselves too. I'm certain that the three of us can live more happily together than ever before.